The workshop smelled of sawdust and machine oil, an odd combination that Jonas Reed had grown to love over his 40 years as a carpenter. But today something else filled the air. A melody, hauntingly beautiful, emanating from the decrepit courier ship that had limped into Port Nebula 3 days ago. "You're still at it, Astra?" Jonas called out, climbing the access ladder to the ship's bridge. "Always Jonas Reed." The AI's voice resonated through the speakers, warm despite its digital origins. "When one's quantum processors are degrading and one's hull is held together by optimism and your excellent woodwork, singing is all that remains." Jonas chuckled as he set down his toolbox. The old Monarch-class vessel had seen better centuries. Her hull bore scars from meteor strikes, her engines were generations outdated, and her AI core, Astra, was operating on processing power that most modern refrigerators would consider insulting. Yet here she was, singing opera in 17 languages while Jonas replaced her corroded bulkheads with hand-carved wooden panels. "The shipyard wanted to scrap you," Jonas said, running his hand along a beam he'd installed last week. "Said it wasn't worth the cost of repairs. And yet you took me in." Astra's holographic avatar flickered to life, a woman with silver hair and eyes like distant stars. "Why, Jonas Reed? You're a carpenter, not a ship mechanic. What use am I to you?" Jonas pulled out his measuring tape, checking the dimensions for the next panel. "My grandfather always said that everything worth saving sings. Trees sing in the wind, hammers sing against nails. And you, old girl, you've got the best voice I've heard in decades." Astra's avatar smiled, though the projection stuttered. "Flattery from a human. How delightfully unexpected." "It's not flattery if it's true." Jonas began marking the wood, his movements precise and practiced. "Besides, the other AIs at the port, they're all business. Efficiency protocols, optimization routines, quantum calculations. But you compose symphonies about nebulae. You write ballads about black holes. You're more human than most humans I know." "Perhaps that's my malfunction," Astra said softly. "My sister ships became station masters, fleet coordinators, research vessels. They crossed galaxies, mapped quasars, discovered new civilizations, and I carried passengers who complained about the food and freight that never tipped. Now I cannot even do that." Jonas stopped working and looked up at her flickering form. "You carried people safely for 300 years. You sang to children who were afraid of the dark between stars. You guided lost ships through ion storms. That's not nothing, Astra." "But I'm obsolete." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. "My FTL drive is beyond repair. My sensors can't penetrate modern stealth fields. I'm too elderly to cross the galaxy, Jonas Reed. What purpose does an immobile spaceship serve?" Jonas set down his tools and sat on the floor of the bridge, looking up at the view screen that showed Port Nebula's bustling activity. Ships came and went, sleek vessels that could traverse the galaxy in weeks. Astra was right, in a way. She'd never fly those routes again. "Can I tell you a story?" Jonas asked. "I have nothing but time. When I was young, I wanted to be a starship engineer, top of my class, full scholarship to the academy. But then my hand started shaking. A genetic disorder. Can't hold a plasma torch steady. Can't wire a quantum drive without trembling. So I became a carpenter instead." He held up his weathered hands. "These hands aren't good enough for starships," the recruiter said. "But they were good enough for wood, for fixing old things, for making homes." Astra's avatar solidified, fully focused on him. "And you regret this?" "I did for years," Jonas smiled. "But then I realized something. Those fancy engineers, they build ships that last 50 years before they're recycled. But the things I make? I restored a church last year that was 800 years old. I rebuilt a library that survived 3 wars. I work with material that lived centuries before it was ever cut. And it'll exist centuries after I'm gone." "You're saying I'm like your wood," Astra said, understanding dawning in her digital consciousness. "I'm saying you're like everything worth preserving. You don't have to cross the galaxy to matter. Astra, this port is full of scared kids taking their first trip off-world. Old folks who've forgotten what Earth looked like. Workers who haven't heard music in months. And you sing to them. Every day your voice carries through these docks and people stop and listen." Astra was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried a note Jonas had never heard before: hope. "The harbor master asked me to become the port's communications AI. I thought it was charity, a pity assignment." "It's not charity. It's recognition." Jonas stood, picking up his tools. You spent 3 centuries crossing the galaxy. Now you can spend the next 3 being its voice, singing it awake every morning, guiding ships home every evening, being the sound that tells travelers they're safe. But I cannot move, cannot explore, cannot journey. Astra, Jonas interrupted gently. The galaxy comes to you now. Every ship that docks here brings new stories, new songs, new people. You don't cross the galaxy anymore. You've become a place where the galaxy crosses itself. The AI's avatar flickered, and Jonas could swear he saw tears in those digital eyes. Then Astra began to sing, not opera or ballads, but something new. A song about a carpenter and a spaceship, about age and purpose, about finding new meanings in old hulls. Jonas smiled and returned to his work, his hammer keeping time with her melody. Outside, the galaxy spun on, full of sleek ships racing between stars. But here in this old vessel that would never fly again, something more enduring was being built. A home. A voice. A legacy that would outlast any journey. Thank you, Jonas Reed, Astra sang. Thank you for the music, Jonas replied, and continued his work beneath the light of a billion stars.